Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything, from the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys. Tito's is known for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by 5th Generation Inc., Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
Welcome back to Marvelous Disney with Dan Graney, the podcast that discusses the most recent doings at one of the more dynamic divisions of the Walt Disney Company, which is, of course, Marvel Entertainment. This is entertainment writer Jim Hill and my co-host, the ever-resourceful Dan Graney. He and I are recording this week's episode on Sunday, December 7th, 2025, and the show will then post on Wednesday, December 10th, unless you're on Patreon, and where you'll get it even earlier, which means what? We're somewhere between leftover stuffing and the first fight about where the Christmas lights went.
Oh, yeah. Well, so at my house right now, we've got lights everywhere. I've got multiple trees decorated. I've got Star Wars holiday inflatables flying all over the yard. And out of all the extension cords I have owned, I cannot seem to find them. So somehow they've slipped into a pocket dimension somewhere. So I'd say that, yeah, we could call this like the holiday multiverse territory.
If it's any consolation, Marvel seems to be in the same mood. And by the way, on today's show, we're going to talk about how Avengers Endgame is headed back into theaters, seemingly as a warm act for Avengers Doomsday. Who's actually on Sam Wilson's version of the Avengers? Some theme park maneuvering that might change which comic book characters we see at Universal. And I kid you not, how the Hulk taking the stairs may have accidentally broken the MCU. But before Dan and I get to any of that, we need to acknowledge Marvelous Disney's sponsor, which is unlockmagic.com, where you get real discounts on Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando tickets, sometimes upwards of 12% off. And just so you know, Unlock Magic is run by the exact same team behind the DVC rental store and the DVC resale market. And planning a trip to Central Florida in 2026, just pick your dates, grab your tickets, and go. Unlock Magic makes it that easy to rack up some pretty significant savings. Oh, and when you get your tickets, please tell the nice folks at unlockmagic.com that it was Dan and Jim who sent you, okay? All right, so Dan, Marvel looked at the second highest grossing movie of all time and said, you know what? Let's run that one back. So Avengers Endgame is headed back into theaters on, now mind you, it's next year, December 25th, 2026. And Disney isn't being coy about why that Russo Brothers movie is neatly slotted between Spider-Man Brand New Day, which arrives in theaters July 31st of next year, and Avengers Doomsday, which shows up at your local multiplex on December 18th. And as I just mentioned, same directing team as Endgame, Joe and Anthony Russo, and of course, Robert Downey Jr. is back at Marvel, only this time he's putting on the armor for Doctor Doom, not Iron Man.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing's kind of wild. This was unexpected. But this re-release basically, becomes a previously on Marvel marathon, but, with a secret mission, which is to remind you just how hard Endgame hit and then kind of walk you straight into Doomsday with that exact same creative trio.
Now, let's remind folks what a truly big deal Endgame was the first time around. It was the biggest global opening weekend ever. Film went on to make $2.7 billion worldwide. By the way, on the heels of Zootopia 2, which, is supposed to make it to $1 billion this coming week. In fact, the day this show goes live, it's supposed to cross over the $1 billion line. Endgame, literally hold my beer. Endgame was the film quickest ever to make it to $1 billion, 5 days, back on April 30th, 2019. Now, mind you, since then, this thing has been handing the number one movie of all time back and forth. The baton between this and Avatar, like it's the baton of infinity. But now Marvel is using Endgame as a literal pregame show for Doomsday. Is that what we think here?
Yeah.
And let's talk about the timing of this announcement, because on the very same day that this news broke, Netflix confirmed its agreement to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. So, we have one company out there buying a studio and its film library. And at the same time, Kevin Feige is at the podium going, we make movies for movie theaters because it's where movies belong.
Yeah. I watched that teaser that the Russos posted, and I have to say the timing is not subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix is, obviously at the stance of we've got a billion things to stream and obviously going for more. And Marvel, is basically saying, cool. Well, we'll see you at the local multiplex for a movie you've already seen 3 times.
And what amazes me about 2027 is, that's what is it? That's the same year that we're now going to get Star Wars: A New Hope back in theaters, February of 2027. But it's the original, right? That's what we old people saw back in 77. Same time. On the animation side of the street, August 6th of 2027, we got the Bluey movie, which if you got toddlers is a big deal. If on the other hand, you're an old fart like me, a month later on September 3rd, you've got The Simpsons 2. So that's a lot of event cinema going on there, isn't it?
Yeah. Although I do need to just take a moment of silence to honor the fact that this is the original release of Star Wars, from 1977, which has been fought against tooth and nail since 1997.
Yeah, because us fans have had thoughts since the special edition was released, and no, we won't go to the Han shot first thing, but anyway.
Yeah, well, okay, and just to say, I will always say this, it's like, no, Han didn't shoot first, Han shot. There was no first. The end.
Ooh, I like that. Han
shot, and that was it.
Okay.
So yes, everybody. I mean, that is the most polarizing thing out of all of that. And Darth Vader saying no at the end of Return of the Jedi. I don't want to talk about that. Anyway, so what's kind of funny about this is that the Russos are actually leaning into the nostalgia themselves. I mean, with that video that I talked about, with the audience is screaming during the portal sequence, and Sam saying on your left, and Cap just look. Standing there, and then it says, there's the subtitles on this spot. It says, "You remember that feeling? You love this feeling. So do we." And their production company even called Endgame the greatest pregame for Avengers Doomsday.
So what do you think is going on here, Dan? Is this mostly about Marvel looking to goose the box office for Endgame, or is this genuinely chasing the I can't believe I saw that in a theater feeling again?
Let's just say a little of column A or a little bit of column B. If I'm, Kevin Feige, and I know that I've got Doomsday coming, I want people going into the movie with Endgame fresh in their heads and their hearts. This is like the warm-up. And then it's just one that happens to possibly change the highest grossing movie of all time from Navy Blue to Thanos Purple.
If we could pause here just for a second, though, the bar here for the Doomsday teaser trailer. In fact, I before we did this week's show, I went back and actually watched the trailers for both Infinity War and Endgame, and they, they're worth revisiting again because of the notion out ahead of the Doomsday trailer dropping. Because there's so many things in there that they did so smart. I mean, do you remember how the Infinity trailer or Infinity War trailer actually ended with with Thor like, "Who the hell are you guys?" And you get the reveal of the Guardians of the Galaxy are in the movie. The Guardians of the Galaxy are in the movie.
Yeah.
So, just in a weird sort of way for me, for them to bring Endgame to the table again, to remind me of what I should expect from Doomsday, that's kind of asking a lot, I mean, it's a very, very high bar, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I think they know. Just the fact that they're sharing what was one of the greatest, modern movie events over the past 10 years was that entire end battle. As soon as Cap catches Mjolnir, I mean, the audiences were nuts. So for them to share that, I mean, they clearly have to know. It's like, you can't go, "Hey, remember this incredible moment that we were responsible for?" I mean, that's a bold move. So, I would have to hope that they know that they're sitting on something that can hopefully even compare.
All right. Now, speaking of sitting on something, at the end of Endgame, there is a sound buried at the very, very end of the movie that has people talking again. And you, Mr. Greeny, have a theory about how this involves Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom and a trip back to 1979, which we'll get to in a sec. But first, we got an ad. So hang in there, folks. We'll be right back.
I am so excited for this spa day. Candles lit, music on, hot tub warm and ready. And then my chronic hives come back. Again, in the middle of my spa day. What a wet blanket. Looks like another spell of itchy red skin. If you have chronic spontaneous urticaria, or CSU, there is a different treatment option. Hives during my next spa day? Not if I can help it. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
10 years from today, Lisa Schneider will trade in her office job to become the leader of a pack of dogs. As the owner of her own dog rescue, that is. A second act made possible by the reskilling courses Lisa's taking now with AARP to help make sure her income lives as long as she does. And she can finally run with the big dogs. And the small dogs, who just think they're big dogs. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Learn more at aarp.org/skills.
Deck your home with Blinds.com. DIY or let us install. Free design consultation. Plus free samples and free shipping.
Head to Blinds.com now for up to 50% off site-wide plus a free professional measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
And we're back. Okay, so Dan, let's talk about this sound. For those folks who may not remember, at the very end of Avengers Endgame, after all the credits, you hear this faint sound of metal being pounded. No visuals, just a sound. And at the time, again, remember that this is what, late April, early May of 2019. Most people, sitting there in the theater, oh, it's a callback to the first Iron Man movie. Tony in the cave making the Mark I armor out of scraps. So an audio farewell to a guy who basically started this whole cinematic universe.
Yes. And up till now, it's been more of a tip of the hat than a tease. Mm-hmm. So, with this re-release coming, my conspiracy board brain just went into overdrive. Now, I want to stress this up front. What I'm going to say is 100% my own speculation. Nobody's reported this, so there's no scoops. Kevin Feige has not been texting me in the middle of the night. He's free to, if you're listening. This is just me connecting the dots like a man who's seen Endgame way too many times.
Okay, so we are now entering Dan throws a theory out into the universe and hopes that Marvel is listening. That this is this portion of this week's show.
Yes. So, okay, here's the thought. I want to go back. First, you mentioned, 1979. That's when the original Star Wars got another theatrical re-release. And now from, its first initial run in 77 to 79, they re-released it a handful of times.
They did.
Yeah. But this particular time in 1979, they attached a little teaser for The Empire Strikes Back at the very end, after the credits, after the music, after everything. And it wasn't a normal trailer. It was more like a sneak peek, hey, by the way, here's this thing coming and it's going to blow your mind. Now, for a certain generation, this was a huge movie moment. I remember it vividly, being in the theater and being able to watch Star Wars again. And then boom, here's the first taste of Empire almost a year ahead of time. And, the audio, the color correction wasn't done. The effects weren't finished. The audio was rough. There was no music. But here's what I think. Now, we know Kevin Feige is a big Star Wars kid at heart. And he's also a big movie moments guy. He always refers to movie moments and capturing the feeling of a certain scene or a certain moment. So if you're Kevin Feige, you look at this Endgame re-release and think, hey, you know what? I could do that. I could create that feeling. So this is my pitch. Is what if when Endgame comes back out in 2026, we do get a sneak peek after into Doomsday, just kind of like how Star Wars did for Empire in 79. I mean, that doesn't seem crazy,
No, that would actually be a really smart play on Disney's part to drive people back into theaters and create even more excitement for Doomsday.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then, of course, I had to go a little bit further. So I was thinking about that, the end of the movie, because I'm like, what was it? Oh, yeah, it was the metal pounding sound. So I decided, hey, what if instead of only the audio, we got to see the video that was accompanying it? But this time, there's an image to go with it. But you think you're looking at Tony, and he's in the cave and he's hammering on the Mark I. But we pull back, and it's actually Victor Von Doom forging his mask.
Oh, so same sound, very different man in a metal suit.
Yeah. See, the audio callback, it literally is this handoff. And this is where Tony's story ended. And this is where Doom's begins. And remember what Donnie said, new mask, same task. So I'm saying it again. There's nothing out there to suggest that Marvel's actually doing this. This is just me saying, if I were Kevin Feige and I wanted to echo that 1979 Star Wars Empire sneak peek feeling, this is how I'd do it.
What's brilliant about this theory is it ties in so neatly with what we were talking about on last month's show. Marvel bringing Downey back as Doom, the Russos returning, the studio basically admitting, okay, maybe we strayed a little, man. So let's go back to what worked and let's build outward from there.
Yeah, and it would give fans something to obsess over for a few months. They'd be like, did you see the mask? Did you see the armor detail? Did you catch the Latveria flag in the background? I mean, this is the kind of frame-by-frame trailer breakdown Marvel lives on.
Okay, so now the big question. All right, so if this is what's going to happen, is this going to feel like a cool enhancement? Or like somebody's messing with Endgame's original goodbye to Tony, which was a heartbreaker.
It was, and it was perfect. I'm not going to deny that, but I guess it's sort of like, as long as you're not changing the movie proper, it's all it's additive. Now they did say at some point during all this hubbubbery the other day that this is Doomsday is a direct sequel to Endgame. So the original moment will still exist for anyone who saw it in 2019. It's just that in 2026, maybe we get this new layer for a new chapter. But again, my theory, not reality yet, maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, if this actually happens, first of all, we all know who to blame. But since we're talking about Doomsday, let's now pivot to who's going to be on the field for this fight, because we just got a better idea of who's going to be on Sam Wilson's version of the Avengers team.
Oh yeah, yes, we did.
So, and what Dan is referring to here is there was a Disney event in Italy just recently where they quietly dropped some interesting information about who's standing behind Sam Wilson when Avengers Doomsday hits. And from what was shown and described, Sam's Avengers team includes, well, of course, Sam Wilson as Captain America, Joaquin Torres as the new Falcon. We also have Thor, Loki, Shang-Chi, and Scott Lang, Ant-Man. By the way, also worth noting, Letitia Wright's Suri was listed as part of the Wakandan Warriors, but not a member of this particular Avengers squad.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty fascinating mix because you've got, we've got two literal gods, and we've got the guy with the 10 magic rings, and then the everyman who went toe to toe with Kang, and Sam and his new Falcon, who are trying to basically just keep this group chat on task. But having Loki on an Avengers lineup card, it feels like the sort of thing that would have given the original Avengers team heartburn.
I mean, if you look at his resume, you understand this. I mean, Loki tries to conquer Earth, gets killed by Thanos, time travel shenanigans, helped to break the TVA, and now is basically the guy who's holding together all of the timelines. I mean, so casual God stuff, and now he's on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, if you're dealing with a multiversal crisis and Doom, the guy literally sitting on the throne of timelines is probably, someone you want on your side, reluctantly, and with, many legal waivers.
And a quick question here. This is obviously Loki at the end of season 2 of his limited series, where he redeemed himself, right?
Absolutely. He went through, I mean, having watched that, I don't remember how many years he spent trying to, defeat the, inevitable timeline where he was able to finally make his way out and sort of rebind the timeline. But this is a much redeemed Loki.
Okay. So, all right. Again, that's what I think is going to be really interesting about this is, are people who go into the movie theater going to remember that Loki has in fact redeemed himself over on Disney Plus? But anyway, back to these folks in Italy, who are also very careful to say that this is only part of the cast of Doomsday, that Kevin Feige's being consistent about that. We revealed many, not all. So you can absolutely expect that this team to grow by the time Avengers Doomsday finally arrives in theaters next December.
And this kind of also plays into that whole new Avengers tension we saw at the end of Thunderbolts, where they slapped the Avengers name on themselves. And we saw the post-credit scene where Bucky basically says that Sam's not too thrilled about it.
Okay, so and is this about what you expected the Sam-led Avengers to look like, or does it feel like Marvel's still keeping too many cards hidden?
Well, on one hand, I mean, it's a good start, especially seeing Ant-Man and Shang-Chi in there. I mean, because, you've got the power and you've got weirdness and humor all in one place. I mean, it's a very eclectic. I mean, I think when you think about this mix, it's definite. There's pre-built comedy, but there's got to be some heavy hitters they're not telling us. And I'll be honest, I want to say it. There's not a single lady. So I think at some point some familiar faces are going to portal in when things go south.
Okay, now, speaking of familiar faces, let's talk about something that popped up where you theoretically might be able to see both Marvel and DC characters on the same day. And no, I don't mean a movie. Okay, past week, we learned about the Netflix acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery, which is pending all sorts of approvals. But Bloomberg reported that as part of this deal, Warner Brothers Discovery is exploring options to license DC characters to new theme park attractions, and that one of the possible suitors on this list is Universal. Now, anybody who pays attention to this podcast knows that Universal already has Marvel Superhero Island over at Universal Islands Adventure, plus the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. So if they were to then actually make a separate deal with DC, wow, you're talking about a resort where you got Spider-Man, the Hulk, Batman, Superman, all living under the same umbrella.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of park map that would have blown my mind as a kid.
Now, quick reminder about the Marvel side of things. Back in the early 1990s, Marvel licensed its classic characters to Universal for theme parks east of the Mississippi. And as long as Universal keeps those attractions open, they hold on to that license, which is why you can have an Avengers campus out in California, but you can't have an Avengers land at Walt Disney World. Now, if Universal were, in fact, to cut a separate deal with DC, you'll be looking at something where Marvel Land here, DC Land over there, Harry Potter down the street. So what? It's the pop culture equivalent of a food court.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is kind of becoming the crossover we might actually get, so you don't really have to even try to negotiate a Marvel versus DC movie, which I think will happen at some point. You just could go to Universal and bounce between the lands, and your brain just kind of mushes it all together.
Okay, now, as to how this might impact the Marvel license, look, Dan and I are going to be upfront, folks. It's hard to say. The Marvel master licensing deal and any potential deal to bring the DC characters into the Universal parks, separate contracts, different pieces of paper. But the optics are interesting. Also, I have to remember that Universal now has theme parks around the globe. We've got Singapore, we've got Japan, we've got Beijing, in addition to the park in, the Universal Orlando Resort in Florida, and likewise the ever-expanding original out in Hollywood. As long as all of the parties involved here play by the rules, well, that's how, again, we get an Avengers campus at Disneyland and things like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot. Let me just throw another possible reason why this conversation might be happening. What if, we've always talked about Comcast will keep the Marvel Superhero Island open for as long as it pleases them. But what if, for example, Disney were to put up a stunning pile of money? And face it, we've talked previously on the show about how Marvel Superhero Island could potentially, what with its giant green Hulk coaster, could become a wicked land with a Wicked Witch of the West coaster. On the other hand, an entirely alternate scenario where Marvel's Superhero Island shuts down and a year to 18 months later reemerges as DC Superhero Island. Just putting it out there.
I mean, and we do need to consider Marvel's Superhero Island is basically like a land frozen in time. It's 1990s Marvel. We talked about this recently.
Yes, we did.
So, to bring in DC, you've got 1990s Marvel, and then this like sort of like gleaming modern DC with, I don't know, a Justice League ride built with 2020's technology. I mean, the contrast would be wonky.
I don't know. If this is how it actually plays out, if you're a theme park fan, well, first of all, huge shift. But, and again, want to stress here, this is just a lot of talk, a lot of ifs and maybes, but, potential. So we're just going to keep an eye on this aspect of the Netflix Warner Brothers Discovery acquisition.
Yeah. So, but in the meantime, if you do want to see Marvel and DC in the same place, your best bet is the comic book shop, where currently the Fantastic Four and the Flash are teaming up, and also in my imagination.
Well, there we go. All right. So we've talked about who's directing what, which heroes are on which team, and where they might show up in the parks. Let's now take a quick peek into Rumor Corner, and then we'll let the Hulk break reality by taking the stairs. Okay, so Rumor Corner, always in this segment. These are unconfirmed stories from the scooper side of the world. Interesting if true, but not official until Marvel or Disney actually says something on the record. So first up, Destin Daniel Crichton. Okay. So the word is that if Spider-Man Brand New Day does well, Kevin Feige wants Crichton, who directed Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and who was originally attached to, direct the now defunct Kang Dynasty movie. Kevin supposedly wants Destin to direct the next Avengers movie after Secret Wars. So if you have the Russos steering Doomsday and Secret Wars, and then Crichton steps in as the guy who's setting the tone for the rebooted post Secret War MCU, is that right?
Yeah. And I mean, remember our last episode, we talked about how the Russos are being courted. The rumor, I should say, is that the Russos are being courted to be part of the Marvel Parliament.
There we go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this fits with what Feige's talked about, which is a 7-year plan that runs through 2032. With Secret Wars being the big reset button, and then a new continuity built on top of that. So if this shakes out, I mean, we can kind of see the Russos as the cleanup crew, and then Crichton is the renovation contractor.
Okay, now there's another half of this rumor, and that involves the She-Hulk, who, remember, at least in the MCU, was introduced with the 2022 limited series on Disney Plus, She-Hulk Attorney at Law. And the same scooper says that Marvel wants Tatiana Mansley's She-Hulk in a big way in Secret Wars, but Mansley herself currently has no interest in working with Disney. Sort of ties back to the whole Jimmy Kimmel situation, and if this holds, Marvel's left with two choices, and that's to either recast or to quietly write Jennifer Walters out of that story. Now, again, want to stress here, none of this has been confirmed by Marvel or Disney, but given how much She-Hulk changed the tone of the MCU, and I love those shows. I thought they that mix of legal comedy and the fourth wall jokes, and losing Mansley, that would be tough. That would definitely leave a hole.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I have to say, it's like as a fan of the original John Byrne She-Hulk run in the comics, it was spot on. People did, I think, were thrown by the tone, but it was very, very true to the source material. So I don't know. I mean, on one hand, you've got a director who might be shepherding the very first Avengers movie in this new continuity, and then on the other, we've got a character whose future is up in the air. But it just kind of gives you that sense of just how many spinning plates, large and small, are behind these big Phase 7 slides.
Well, okay. However these negotiations shake out, one thing seems certain. The Hulk is still going to be angry. And in fact, in our final segment on today's show, he can't even get an elevator. But we'll discuss that story in a moment. But first, this.
No matter what's on your plate or your mind this holiday season, the UPS Store wants to help. With our pack and ship guarantee, we're helping gifts arrive safely to guarantee more.
They know me so well. Picture perfect gifts.
We're helping guarantee more smiles with our pack and ship guarantee. If we pack it and ship it, we guarantee it. Your items arrive safe or your money back. Stop by your local The UPS Store for holiday help, shipping holiday gifts. Visit theupsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product, services, prices, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details.
And we're back. Okay, Dan. So you found this article by Richard Craig over at Screen Rant and mentioned that we should talk about it. So let us talk about the Hulk taking the stairs. So take us back to that moment in Avengers Endgame and the stairwell.
Yeah. I obviously know. I was pretty excited about this when I saw it. So, in Endgame, after the 2012 Avengers, so we're talking about the Battle of New York Avengers, after they secured the Tesseract, Hulk. We see that Hulk tries to squeeze into the elevator with the rest of the team. And, they tell him there's no room and he has to take the stairs. Well, obviously he stomps down, he gets mad. And then by the time he reaches the bottom, he comes smashing through the door and he accidentally knocks present day Tony Stark across the lobby. And that's when the Tesseract flies out of Tony's case and it lands right in front of Loki, who promptly grabs it and disappears. Now, it's a great gag in the moment, but if you follow the dominoes from just that one angry stairwell moment, it has basically reshaped the entire MCU.
More to the point, this is actually the stepping off point for the Loki limited series. But okay, let's run the receipts.
Okay, so first domino. Loki escapes with the Tesseract, just like you said. But, instead of staying locked up after the Battle of New York, he vanishes and he becomes a variant. So this is, to your point, the Loki who ends up in the TVA, meets Mobius, and eventually evolves into the version who saves the multiverse by holding all the timelines together. So the entire Loki series is because of Hulk's tantrum.
Okay.
Now, the second domino is the multiverse saga itself. So let's think about this. Loki disappears into this alternate timeline. And that's the first big crack in the so-called sacred timeline. The TVA identifies the anomaly. And then suddenly we're dealing with branching realities, time police, all the stuff we see in Loki, in No Way Home, in Multiverse of Madness, in Quantum Mania. So if Hulk would have fit in the elevator, Marvel would have had to find some other probably clunkier way to open up the multiverse.
Wow. So this joke, the stairwell bit actually becomes the inciting incident for Phase 4 and 5 of the MCU?
Exactly. All right. So the third domino from this is He Who Remains. Because Loki, variant Loki, I should say, gets pulled into the TVA. He meets Sylvie, who discovers who's really running the show, and eventually ends up in that fateful confrontation. As you remember, spoiler everybody, if you haven't seen it, sorry, it's been a while. Sylvie kills He Who Remains, and the timeline explodes into the infinite branches. That's literally the moment the TVA loses control. Again, pull Hulk out of the stairwell, and none of this happens the way we saw it. The fourth domino, Spider-Man No Way Home. Doctor Strange's botched memory spell for Peter Parker only spirals into multiversal chaos because the TVA isn't there to clamp down on timeline distortions anymore. So under sacred timeline rules, that kind of spell would get you pruned before the opening credits. But instead, we started to see legacy villains and variants and obviously multiple Spider-Men and permanent consequences for Peter.
All right. So it's the gift that keeps on giving, or should I say breaking?
Exactly. All right. Fifth domino, the multiverse of madness. We've got Wanda dreamwalking on her and her brutal takedown of the Illuminati on Earth 838. Those are blatant violations of the old rules. Again, possible only in a post-TVA branching multiverse where those alternate Illuminati even exist. The sixth and seventh domino are the emotional endings of Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, because Hulk knocks out the Tesseract. He knocks it out of play in 2012. Tony and Steve have to go back further to 1970 to grab both the cube and more Pym particles. That detour is what gives Tony the conversation with Howard Stark. And that's where he gets that sort of last bit of closure with his dad before he sacrifices himself in the final battle. And Steve, well, he pockets some extra Pym particles on that trip, which is what allows him to go back and live out his life with Peggy after the battle's over. So without Hulk's stair problems, they complete the original mission cleanly, and neither one of those trips to 1970 even happened.
Okay, so the Hulk being forced to take the stairs is directly responsible for, honestly, one of my favorite moments in Endgame. Tony talking with his dad and finally making peace with his father, and more to the point, that lovely grace note at the actual end of the film where you see Steve with Agent Carter, finally getting his dance.
Yeah, it's exactly it. It's the moment that gives them both the emotional closure that they'd been building for that entire time. And then, finally, Loki becomes the god of stories because he's a variant. He's able to step outside of his predestined path, and literally he grabs a hold of the timelines. And that's the version who ends up on what, that throne of branches that we see, where he's holding everything together. And it's almost certainly setting the stage for what we'll see in Doomsday, going back to what we said at the beginning. So if you look at it that way, Hulk taking the stairs, the Tesseract goes flying, Loki escapes, the TVA rises and falls, the multiverse shatters, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange break everything further, Wanda goes on a rampage, Tony and Steve get their perfect endings, and Loki becomes the linchpin of reality itself. And it's really all just because the elevator was too full.
That may be the most comic book explanation ever.
So, now as we head into Doomsday, I can't help but think that the Russos know exactly how important that stairwell scene is. In the movie, it was kind of like a throwaway gag, but it really did set all of this stuff in motion. And they've already shown us that one annoyed Avenger can accidentally change the whole game. So I think what they're going to show us is what happens when a guy like Dr. Doom starts doing it on purpose.
Okay, so the lesson here, folks, is always be kind to the Hulk in confined spaces, because you never know what universe you're then going to knock out of alignment. And with that, that's going to do it for this, the 6th episode of the reboot of the Marvelous Disney podcast. And Dan, if the nice folks want to hear more of you before our next show, where might they be able to find you?
You can find me on X and Facebook and especially YouTube at The Hububbery. That's HUBBUBBERY, where we have a whole bunch of holiday content coming, including why and how I prove that Clue is a perfect holiday movie.
Really? Okay, I have to ask, is it a perfect holiday movie if you watch all of the endings or just one of the endings?
Well, in that way, I mean, it's a gift that keeps on giving.
Okay. All right. Here on my side of the fence, Jim Hill Media, we do a couple of podcasts. We got Disney Dish, we got Fine Tuning, we got the Epic Universal podcast that I do with Eric Hersey, who produces a lot of the shows here at Jim Hill Media. Likewise, I Want That Too. That's our Disney merch podcast, which I do with Eric's lovely bride, Lauren Hersey. We also have Disney Unpacked, which is our Patreon project, which Len and I do with veteran Imagineer Jim Schul. And we have the recently added The Case 4 with Chris Cox, which is a fun new thing. And we got other stuff coming in 2026, but we'll talk about that later. Tell you what, folks, if you could do Dan and I a favor and head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review Marvelous Disney. Well, first of all, that would really help let folks know that this show is back. And if you've got Marvel-related topics you'd like Mr. Graney and I to tackle on future installments of this podcast, please feel free to send them along. And we are already noodling on episode 7 of this series, so come back in 2 weeks and find out what Mr. Graney and I have in the works for that show. So on behalf of Dan, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Marvelous Disney, and we will be back soon.